process to get the PhD. And as we know that our government have very great scholarships. That is LPDP, and they give the opportunity for the lecturers, even the teachers, for study abroad. Okay, I officially open this sharing sessions. Thank you very much for your all your comings, and please welcome our first sharing sessions. Collaborate with Queen's University of Belfast. Thank you very much, Bu Andini.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Fahmi. Okay, now without further ado, we will turn the time over to Dr. Jennifer Roberts. Our presenter today is Acting Director of Internalizations Lecturers in Education Schools of Social Sciences, Education, and Social Works. She will talking about tips and tricks that work for admission process for PhD program in Education School of Social Sciences, Education, and Social Works. That's a very critical issue for the future scholarship applicant. Okay, the floor is yours, Dr. Jennifer.
Thank you. I have a presentation, so I'm just going to share that with you now. Can you see that?
Yes, yes. Wow, very
okay,
nice.
Brilliant. So thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak with you today. As you have said, this is very much an opportunity for you to find out more about Belfast, to find out more about Queen's, and most importantly, to find out a little bit more about the PhD application process. So both Eureka and myself, we can promise you we are very friendly. So any questions which you may have, we are more than happy to answer as we go through. So please do make sure that you're asking questions. We will leave our contact details and you can get in contact with us as you go through. But hopefully today we'll answer lots of your questions and give you a really clear idea of the kind of steps to take as you think about and move towards applying for a PhD. So Eureka is going to talk you through some of the highlights of Belfast just now for the minute.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. So hello everyone, good evening here. So my name is Eureka and I'm country manager for Queen's based in Indonesia. So I'm just going to go through, talk through about general Belfast and Northern Ireland, and then after that I'll be into Dr. Jennifer. So welcome to Belfast and Northern Ireland. This is such a beautiful country. For me personally, I've been to Belfast many times and I always miss this city. For me, typically, I do really love the city because it's not really big city, but it is not also small city as well. So just kind of like in a middle city area. So maybe you can next the slide. Thank you. Okay, so where are we located? So we are located in the country called Northern Ireland. So in the UK itself, for those of you who doesn't know a bit about UK, so let me explain it further. So in the UK itself, we are divided by 4 countries. If you see England's over there is a, so there's England. If you see London and Manchester, there's an England area. So the capital city is London. And if you see up there is actually Scotland and the capital city is Edinburgh. And then if you see our little green island, it's Northern Ireland. And the capital city is Belfast. So we are actually a capital city of Northern Ireland. And we have also the last one is Wales, which is the capital city is Cardiff. So Belfast itself, for me, I personally find it very unique because in terms of the geographically, we are actually as a in a part of Ireland, but in terms of UK or in terms of like governments, law, or like our situations right now, like our locations is actually we are still part of the UK, so we are still following the UK rules. And each of the countries in the UK, we have our own government. So like for Belfast itself, we have our kind of like city hall, in Belfast itself. And Belfast is known as one of the lowest student cost of living in the UK. I think for me personally, this is kind of very interesting for all students who wanted to study. I think Mbak Fanny will gonna explain it further for the cost of living and how she lives in Belfast. And Belfast also known as one of the safest city in the UK. I think for me personally, this is also very important, and especially for Belfast itself, we are ready to have like kind of like racism kind of situations. For me personally, I find it very safe. And then if it's like in Indonesia, I always say Belfast is similar like Yogyakarta as a city. So it's a very student city. It is very easy to live in. You don't really need to buy a car to live in Belfast. You can just walk around. You can just take a bus or even rent a bicycle. Renting a bicycle in Belfast is only £25 a year, which is really, really cheap. And the city itself is really nice. Typically for the flights, because I'm based in Jakarta, typically I normally take KLM. So from Jakarta to Amsterdam is 10 hours. And then from Amsterdam to Belfast is actually only one and a half hours. So it's still really accessible for the students to come here as well. If you're stopping in London, from London to Belfast is actually only 1 hour, so it's quite accessible as well to go back and forth to London during weekends. Next slide, please, Jennifer. Okay, so the city itself is very famous for one of the TV drama. I'm not sure if you guys have watched this. It's called Game of Thrones. Like if you're kind of like Game of Thrones kind of big fans, you're gonna love Belfast. I do personally. I've never watched Game of Thrones before. When I come and visit this beautiful landscape, but once I visit these places, I definitely going to watch Game of Thrones. So these places are very famous because they do movie production for a Game of Thrones. They do some shooting over here. Next slide, please, Jennifer. So you can actually rent a uniform as well if you're really kind of like diehard fans of Game of Thrones. So this is the kind of the places you can take kind of like 1 day tour to visit this place. This is typically like 2 hours, 2.5 hours drive from city center. For me personally, I really love it. If you like kind of natural landscape, taking lots of pictures, put it on your social media, you're gonna love Belfast. Okay, next slide, Jennifer. This is also one of the very popular tourist destinations. Causeway. This is actually a World Heritage UNESCO, and if you plan to come to Belfast, I would really recommend you to come and visit this places. There is actually a myth going on within this place. Same like in Indonesia, we have kind of like like legenda or mitos in Indonesia. We do also have it in Belfast. So there's a lot of myths happening in these places. So it's really worth it to visit Giant Causeway when you come to Belfast. Next slide. Okay, so in Belfast itself, we are divided by 7 quarters. Maybe same like Jakarta, we have Jakarta Barat, Jakarta Timur, Jakarta Selatan, same like in Belfast, but we call it in quarters. So I'm not going to explain all the quarters here because it was too many, but I'm going to explain each of the quarters which are very popular for international students to visit. The first one will be Tatani quarters. This is actually my favorite quarters. So if you ever watch a movie called Titanic, the actual ship was actually designed and built in Belfast. So we have a Titanic museums, Titanic hotels, exhibition centers, and few places for the productions. I know last time like they did some shootings for Game of Thrones over here. So during weekend, this place is actually very full of people, like hanging out, bringing their families to come here. So it's really wonderful places. Next slide, Jennifer. Okay, the second one is Catering Recorder. This is really close to city center. They have here is about like 40 to 50 restaurants around these places. So typically during weekends, a lot of our students, they're actually like hanging out around these places. And if you do like kind of photography and posting your pictures on the social media, you're gonna love this place because personally, I found lots of good spots for photos. I know Indonesians, we all love social media, Instagram and Facebook and everything. So you can take as many photos as you want because there's a lot of good spots around these places for Catering Recorders. Next slide. And then this is the Queen's Quarter. This is where our universities are located. So Queen's was actually the first and the oldest universities and the only Rasa Group universities in Northern Ireland. So we have our own kind of quarters area. I think Bafeni kind of can explain it further later, like how's the universities, how accessible it is from university to city centers back and forth. But we have our own quarters around the area. Next slide. And this is also one of my favorite. This is the city centers. I know for those of you maybe thinking like, oh, Belfast is such a city, is not easy to get access to it. But to be very honest with you, I can always find rice with food. With chickens or with veggies every time I get a meals, because typically for like Indonesians, one of their concern will be like, will I be able to find like Asian food in UK? The answer is yes. There's a lot of Asian food. There's an Asian supermarket. You can find Indomie. You can find ABC sambal, those type of Indonesian kind of cuisines. There's also malls over here. So if you are looking for like to do shopping, there's also a shopping area in these places. For me, I really like to live in Belfast because of the lowest cost of living. Mostly students can spend only 500 to 800 pounds, including meals and accommodation, which is really, really affordable compared to other cities in the UK. Next slide. Okay, so I'm hand over to Jennifer for more information about Queen's and PhD research. Thank you.
Yes, so hopefully that little overview has told you some of the lovely things that we can see in Northern Ireland and some of the lovely highlights of Belfast. It is a very lovely part of the world. There's lots to do. And as Eureka has said, Queen's is a very old university. It has been established since 1845. We are ranked 8th in the UK for research intensity. And that's really important if you're thinking about coming over as a PhD student, because you really want to be somewhere where there is a really good culture of research, where everyone is thinking about research. And that's really important, you know, to be part of that. So we have lots and lots of international students. We have over 100 countries represented, and we have over 3,500 international students. So we have a really good, vibrant mix of students. And what's really important is that we really appreciate and, you know, work with and really love learning about and learning from all of our international students. So as you can see from the photographs, we have a beautiful campus. It is top 10 of the most beautiful universities in the UK. And we also have really good partnerships with America, the Middle East, Africa, India, Southeast Asia, China, and we really enjoy those partnerships and want to strengthen them. So I think Benny's going to talk a little bit later about the graduate school. Yep. So in terms then of coming to Queen's, we do have really good student support. We know that if you're doing a PhD program, there will be times, and Benny is going to nod here, that it is very stressful. And there are times when you have lots going on, and we make sure that we have really good support in place. So we're one of the top 75 universities in Europe for teaching excellence. And in a recent survey, 96% of our current students were satisfied with the subject area expertise, and 92% were satisfied with the learning support. So we have a really good kind of level of student satisfaction, and we're always looking to work with and improve on that. So within the university, there are 3 faculties. We have the Faculty of Medicine, Health and Life Sciences, and there are 4 schools within that. That is not a school that I know faculty I know too much about. We also have the Faculty of Engineering and Physical Science, and you can see there are 6 schools within that faculty. And the 3rd faculty then is the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. And you can see here that our school, the School of Social Sciences, Education and Social Work, is housed within that faculty. So thinking then, Queen's has 3 faculties, and within each faculty there are a number of schools. And within our school, what do we do? What do the School of Social Sciences, Education and Social Work do? And how might you and some of your ideas fit in there? So we have 5 core disciplines. We have criminology, education, social policy, social work, and sociology. I am a lecturer in education, so I trained as a teacher. I was a teacher for quite a number of years. I then moved over to Queen's and did my PhD in reading. So a lot of my work is focused on reading and understanding how we learn to read and how pupils understand reading. So I really work with kind of literary and becoming literate and all of those things. But you can see then how that links with our whole school approach. So we have a range of interdisciplinary research themes. So we have education, advancing understanding and improving outcomes, children, young people and families, policy and practice, crime and criminal justice, health, well-being and inclusion, and peace in societies. So there are lots of really important topics that we cover in terms of our research themes. And more than likely, if you're beginning to think of a PhD, those are some of the things that you will be thinking of. So I'm not going to explore this today, but I have left this in so that if you want to have a look now, or when I circulate the slides later, if you want to have a look, it can just show you some of the things that we're talking about today. And again, as I said, all of these core research themes and all of our research means that we are ranked 8th in the UK, and also over 75% of the research that comes out of our university is world-class or internationally leading. And really, if you're doing a PhD, that's what you want. You want to make sure that your work is on the forefront of new knowledge, that you are really progressing our understanding. So with all that in mind, let's think about what we need to do to apply for a PhD at Queen's. So the first thing you need to do, the very first thing before you kind of move on to anything else, is to really think about your core interests and a core piece of research that you would like to do. I get people contacting me quite regularly about doing a PhD at Queen's. And one of the first things I say is make sure you choose a topic that you are passionate about, that you really care about, and that you love. There is nothing worse than having to spend 3 or 4 years of your life studying something that isn't really isn't a passion of yours. So my very first topic, my very first tip would be to choose something that you find interesting, to choose something that you would really love to spend a lot of time thinking about and a lot of time working with. So the very first thing then you should begin to think about is, well, what would I like to research? What would I like my project to be? So you might think, well, actually, I would like my project to be about writing, or I would like my project to be about learning English for people with learning difficulties, whatever your kind of research might be about. One of the really important things that we need to do then is to begin to put together some sort of outline. So I would like to look at this. I would like to do that by this following methodology, and to have a kind of rough idea about your topic and your area. Now, at this stage, this is before you've contacted a supervisor. So at this stage, it will be maybe quite rough. It won't be overly polished. But at this stage, before you contact a supervisor, it's important that you're contacting them with some rough indication and some rough idea. Very often I get people who contact me and they say, I am interested in doing a PhD. And my first question is always, well, what are you interested in? What would your topic of choice be? What is it that you would like to see? And I ask that for a number of reasons. The first reason is I want to make sure that this person knows and understands what they want to research. The second question is I need to make sure that I am the right supervisor for them. So if someone came to me and said that they wanted to do a PhD in an area of education that wasn't my area of expertise, then I might say, that's great, but why don't you contact my colleague? Here are their email addresses. So it allows me to make sure that you are being kind of passed to the person who's most relevant for you. So your first port of call then is to really think about this notion of, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I would like to look at? Then we're going to contact a supervisor and think about developing that and think about having a kind of more structured and formal proposal. I will then be working with that student, and the student and the supervisor will be working together to identify and define a project before you make a formal application. So the very first thing then I want to talk you through is making contact with a supervisor. So you can see here that we have Find a PhD Supervisor forum. And if I just click onto that, hopefully you can still see that. So if we look here, for example, if you were really interested in reading, I might find that actually there are 2 people who are interested in PhDs in reading, and we can see here that I am one of them. So if I wanted to do my PhD in reading, then I would write that in my supervisor, and I would find that actually there I am, there's Jennifer, who likes to look at literacy and reading. If I wanted to do for example, TESOL more broadly, I can see that I have Ashley Boyle, Caroline Lindsay, or Ebrard Bat, who are all interested in TESOL. So this can be a very, very useful tool in that it allows you to very quickly see who might be in your research area and who might be interested in working with you as you move towards a proposal. So once you begin to think about an area that's of interest, and another thing that might be useful to think about is areas which will really impact your work. So if I was teaching, for example, teaching courses in IELTS, then it would make sense for me to study or to research something around that. If I was constantly thinking about assessment or assessing reading or assessing writing or assessing speaking, it maybe would make sense for me to link my work and my research together. And that can be really interesting. So we can see here, if I type in education, which is very broad, I get 107 supervisors, and I can see that they are all interested in education. And then I can begin to see what parts of education are they interested in. So if I wanted to look at homelessness, I would go talk to Dr. Alan Maddock, for example. And this is just an example of the page that you might encounter then. So you will see the academic profile, and it will tell you the things that they are interested in. It will tell you what they are open to PhD applications in, and it will tell you their email address so that you can make contact. So this is really important. Someone that might be useful to make contact with, someone that maybe some of you will be thinking about contacting, is Ebrar. Ebrar is a lecturer, and he is the head of our TESOL program. So obviously TESOL is something you're all interested in and something that you do kind of work with. And you can see here that he is interested in writing and literacy and thinking about those kind of issues about writing and epistemology and things like that. So it's just an example of some of those profiles that you might encounter as you move through. So Ebrar, I asked him to record a short few sentences. I'll play that at the end if we have time, but you can go back and kind of have a look once the slides are circulated. So beginning to think about then you and your project. When we think of a PhD, one of the core things that we really want to find out is how is this addressing a gap in our knowledge? We want you to think about the area you'll be researching, and we want you to think about what literature is already available. So that really is the what do we already know. We already know all of these things. We already know what's happening in these areas. And then we need to think about, well, what is it that we don't know? What is it that we need to find out? And then your PhD will really bridge that gap, because you'll be thinking about, well, we know all of these things, we don't know these areas, and I am going to try and answer some of these questions that I don't know the answer to. And what's really, really important about a PhD is that the new knowledge may be incremental. It may be building on something that someone else has found out, and we're really adding another layer of understanding, or we're maybe adding another layer of kind of discussion to those things. So it's really important to make sure that we are thinking about something that's new, and something that we don't already know. So it's not something that's already been done. So what's really important is begin to think about what literature is already available. What do we already know? One of the other really important things to think about are the methods that we might use. So what am I going to do to answer my questions? So some of the very common methods that we might use, we may use, for example, a survey that sends out a questionnaire to lots of people at once. We may use testing where we test pupils and then give them some classes and then test them again. We may use focus groups where we talk to people. We may use interviews. So your methods really are, how are you going to answer the questions you have? What are you going to do? What information are you going to collect? And then something else which is important but is often overlooked are the kind of theoretical understandings which go hand in hand with the PhD. So when we're thinking about learning, so for example, in education, we very often talk about kind of Vygotsky's theories of learning. We talk about scaffolding, or we talk about that sort of notion of zone of proximal development. And those are all kind of theories of education which link with how we know and what we know. And those are all important parts of a research proposal. So when you're writing your proposal, then these are the key kind of areas that you need to think about. I have also included this link because this link includes some really, really useful information about what needs to go in each section. So if you can see, they have outlined exactly what should be there. They have begun to say what we need to be doing. They've given examples of what a successful literature review looks like. So this is a really useful link when you get to that kind of writing a proposal stage, because it outlines exactly what's expected in Queen's, but it also gives you examples of good practice and examples of bad practice. So it says, this is what you should be doing, and this is perhaps what you should not be doing. And what I think is really important for any of us to remember at this stage is that none of these proposals are set in stone. Very often, you will write your proposal, you will discuss all of the things, and that will change quite drastically very often when you get to Queen's and when you start to work with your supervisor. This proposal stage is really about thinking of the general area and putting together some of your ideas. So you'll have an overview of the research. This is what my research is. This is what my research looks at. And then you'll have more specific aims and objectives. So your aims and objectives might be, I want to find out if increasing reading time increases scores on the IELTS. I want to find out if teaching children how to sound out words using phonics helps them with their reading. I want to find out. So that's where you're kind of having your aims and objectives. And we normally say to have kind of one overarching aim there, what this project's setting to do. Your literature review will probably be the largest section. And here you're really wanting to show us that you know that there is some literature on the subject, that you know there are some things in the area which are interesting. You know that there is some work which is relevant to your work. So it's important here to show that you know that everything is relevant, or what is relevant. We normally say to have, I suppose, 3 or 4 research questions which are linked to your project. And they're much more specific then than the aims. Your research questions will be, very specific. What do you want to find out? Your methods will be linked with how you're going to find those out. Are you going to do a qualitative study, which focuses on individuals and interviews and focus groups? Will you be doing a quantitative study, which focuses on large samples and numbers? So it's beginning to think about what methods you might be using. And again, what's really important are your proposed timescales. We want to see here that you understand the steps involved and that you're able to kind of give a really good, clear idea of what you might be doing. So that might be saying from September to December, I am going to be doing an initial review of the literature. From December to March, I am going to be writing a literature review chapter. From March to May, I might be doing some methods chapters. From May to August, so it doesn't need to be in very great detail, but you're kind of nearly taking it in chunks of 2 or 3 months and saying for the next 3 months or for these 3 months, this is my project, this is what I'm doing, to see that the project kind of moves along. And within that time scale, you'll need to allow time for ethics approval, which we do all through Queen's. You will need to allow time for collecting your data, transcribing any qualitative data you have, writing up, all of those things. So that's just a way to make sure that you know kind of how long things take and what you should be doing. So that really is thinking about our proposal, what we think about there. Now, there will be some PhD opportunities, and those may be attached to a larger research project. Those might be something that an academic such as myself has already thought, well, this is a great idea. I would love a PhD student to come and help me work through this. So you can look up, this is the link to those PhD opportunities, and you can look up and see anything that may be relevant to you there as well, that you might find relevant to your individual circumstances. Once you and your supervisor have made contact, you have agreed that this is a good idea, you have agreed that you have a really solid proposal, your supervisor will then tell you to make a formal application. And what's really important then for you to think about is, well, what does a formal application look like? So really, when you're working with a potential supervisor, that's at the informal stage. That is you and a member of academic staff saying, we've had an idea, we could work together, this could be a way for you to kind of move forward to PhD study. The formal application stage then is the stage where you can begin to put all of that into our system, and then we can begin to kind of think about offering you a place. So in order to do that, you will need the information outlined in this slide. You will need your passport, your CV, your personal statement, degree transcripts and certificates. You will need that to be combined, so you can see that there are requirements around that. You will also need the research proposal, any English language requirements if necessary, and reference requests as well. And what then I suppose we can begin to see, and what happens then after you submit that formal application, is that will go through an internal peer review process. So once you make the formal application, there is still a process to make sure we are getting really good quality candidates and to make sure that your proposal is very rigorous and robust. So that your proposal will then be sent to 2 academic members of staff to review. And when we review that proposal, we are looking at it and thinking, well, is this feasible? Does it work? Does it link with all of the other things that we're doing? And if you've worked really closely with a supervisor, normally that stage is for us to say, yes, I think this is fine. So it's really important that you're making sure that you put a lot of pre-work into your proposal, because a really good proposal needs to be robust before it's at that formal application stage. So thinking about practical tips then, it is important for you to think about what you would like to do something really interesting. But also one of my top tips is do not do a project that would realistically take 20 people 10 years to do. Very often when we start a PhD, we think of all these great ideas and all these wonderful things we could do. And we say, I could do a survey, and I could do a test, and I could do this, and I could do that. And those are all wonderful things, but they would take 10 years to do all of those. So be very realistic about what you can do and about what you're able to fit into the space of time in a PhD. Make sure that you're able to kind of work through and think about what's able. Another practical tip will be to use the resources that I've shared here today. They will be very useful and helpful. There's lots of information around the expectations there as you go through. This learning resource here you can see linked. It's got lots of information there that can really talk you through some of the areas you will be doing, talk you through some of the resources available. And this study skills handbook is also useful in terms of some of the content that's there and some of the things that they can talk to you about as you go. So I think Venny is going to talk about the accommodation and things like that. Yeah, as we go. So that's the end of my kind of talk around some of your expectations, some of the things that we look for. As I hope you can see there as you went through, that really there is no formal structure. Really the important thing for you is thinking, actually, I have an idea. I think my idea is a good one. I'm going to talk to a supervisor. Let's kind of polish and refine my idea. So it's really important for us to think about and work through all of those stages. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to a discussion around what's really important? Because 3 years is a long time. So it's really important to think about what Belfast is like, what it is like to be a student. And I know myself, for my PhD students, I am very accessible. I talk to them all the time. We tend to have a formal meeting we normally have a formal meeting once a month. However, sometimes the student will say, Jennifer, I want to write 6,000 words and I need 6 weeks. Can we have a meeting in 6 weeks? Or sometimes they will say, Jennifer, can we meet every week? Because I have so much going on right now that I want to talk to you about. And either of those is fine. So what tends to happen is it's normally once a month we have a formal meeting, but sometimes I will meet them weekly when they're in a period where they're doing lots of work. Sometimes I will meet them 6 weekly if, for example, they are collecting data or they are doing something which is very time bound. When students are talking with us as a supervisor, we provide guidance, we provide help, but we also email regularly as well. So our communications with students who are doing a PhD isn't just formal meetings. We also communicate via email regularly. And one of the things that's really interesting for us when we're working with research students is allowing them the space and time to become the expert. And what sometimes someone once said to me that when you start off as a PhD student, your supervisor knows more than you in the first year. In the second year, you and your supervisor know the same amount. And in the third year, you know more than your supervisor. So really what we like to do as supervisors is we like to help you grow and move and think about, your growth towards becoming the expert in your chosen field. So Benny is going to talk to you now about some of those very practical things about living in Belfast, and I'll keep a wee eye on the chat just as we're talking. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jennifer. Actually, there's one question for you, but we keep that question after 3 presenters finished their presentation. Okay, to keep the the people here time to think of the questions. Okay, now we go to our second presenter, Ibu Yurika. Ibu Yurika Sunardi, who will talk about some issues related to problems faced by Indonesian students and about PhD programs at Queen University of Belfast. Time is yours, Ibu Yurika.
Yes, thank you, Ibu Andini, and thank you, Jennifer. Really wonderful presentations. For my second presentations, I'm just going to explain you about the entry requirements, the IELTS requirements, as well as sometimes like the experience that I got from other PhD students about the admission process. So let's just start it. Okay, for the program itself, we do have 2 PhD education program. The first one, this is the general PhD education program, is minimum 3 years for your PhD. And then the second one is for the integrated program. For this PhD education program, we need a minimum GPA upper second class honor, which is around 3.0 to 3.2 GPA in Indonesia, depending on your university accreditations. Typically, our admissions, we're gonna look at the accreditations from your home university for your master's and bachelor's. Typically, if your accreditations university was like C and below, we will kind of higher GPA to entering for PhD program. Typically, I'm going to need about 3.4 to 3.5 GPA, depending on your accreditations. The second one will be the evidence of an IELTS or any other English requirements. Typically for IELTS, we need the overall 6.5 with not less than 5.5 in any components. Okay. We also do accept any other English requirements such as TOEFL, Full Home, Duolingo, IELTS indicator, which I'm going to share you this presentation later on, so you can have a look at this link over here. This provides all the information about our English language requirement. So for those of you who are still kind of struggling with the IELTS, please don't worry. You can try to test for Duolingo. I personally took the test last year, and I got the equivalence about like 8.0 in IELTS, which typically I don't get 8.0 for the IELTS, but I can get 8.0 equivalent with Duolingo, which is, for me personally, I find it is much easier compared to IELTS. Maybe it's different experience, but but for me, I find it quite easier for the test. So please feel free to take Duolingo, and please make sure that if you're planning to apply for other UK universities, for example, please make sure that these universities also accept Duolingo, because not UK universities accepted Duolingo for now. Okay, and then if, for example, you've tried your best to do your IELTS, but you're not hitting 6.5, please don't worry. We as a university, we also provide what we call pre-sessional English. So for those of you who are below 6.5 overall, or maybe like not less than 5.5 in maybe one of two components, you can take a pre-sessional English. Is the course in UK directly is from 4 to 10 weeks, depending on your current result for your IELTS. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to talk to me. But we do accept those pre-sessional English, okay? And for the fees of funding, this year, our tuition fee for PhD education will be 17,460 per year. There will be a 2% annual increase every year for this scholarship. But typically, I know, like maybe Bafeni can share later, if you're getting a government scholarship, they typically will gonna cover for all tuition fee, including the living costs. So typically for Queen's itself, our living cost is quite cheaper compared to any other cities in the UK. So definitely you can actually save a lot. If you're studying at Queen's, okay. And then the second program is actually the same, but it's the integrated program. Typically, these integrated programs are designed for students who you want to get a basis of a research project when you're studying, and then you can get ready for you to progress into your PhD education. So this is a typically like extra 1 year taught module. So the total program will be 4 years. Okay, you will be learning like 1 year taught module before you're moving to your PhD program. The requirement is actually the same with the PhD educations. The GPA, the IELTS requirement is also the same. The difference is that you'll be learning like 1 year taught module with 120 credits. You will need to write about 15,000 words for your thesis before you move on to the PhD educations. But then the tuition fees and everything are all the same. So, and this is basically just for all the students who wanted to, you know, develop your PhD research before move on to your PhD program, definitely. Okay. So I've been asked to share this information actually by IELA team, like the admissions issue mostly faced by Indonesian applicants. This is just the information based on my experience and based on what students has contacted me for the past 8 years. But then the first one, typically the admissions issue typically will be the first one will be the research proposal. I know most of universities, they offer kind of different guidelines from each proposals, but it is really important for you to learn the guidelines from the university. I know Dr. Jennifer has given a very clear information of how you write your research proposal, and sometimes we still receive some kind of unclear proposals or maybe some errors in the research method, some errors in the literature review. So those are the ones that can be rejected. So make sure that you really communicate with your supervisors about this. The second one will be English language requirements. There are also quite quite some Indonesian students who are still struggling for getting an IELTS of 6.5. But typically, I would always suggest that to take another test, for example, like TOEFL or Duolingo, if it's way easier than IELTS. But typically, English will be the main issue for some Indonesian students. And then the third one will be the timeline. I know that this year's scholarship, their deadline will be like only 1 month. And this year, I think for APDP, their deadline will be 2nd of June to getting the LOA. But typically, if you're planning to study for PhD in any other countries or in any other universities, you need to find out the right timeline as well, because we need time to, the first one for you to finding a supervisors, to email them, to, you know, getting back and forth and to understand what your supervisors want and whether this is the right proposal for you, whether you find the right professors. And then after supervisors are happy with your proposals, and then you can submit your applications on Queen's, and we need time getting an offer from admissions. Okay, after you're getting an offer, and then after that you will getting a CAS. CAS is like confirmations of acceptance studies, which is the letter will needed for a visa. And then after you get the CAS, you will be applying for visa, and then you'll be ready for leaving to the UK. Typically for those timeline, I would strongly suggest you to apply at least 8 to 12 months prior coming to UK. Typically, our intake is really depending on your supervisors, but most of Indonesians typically they do leave to UK and start study PhD around September or October every year. So I know this LPDP deadline was just like only for a month. So if you already have any proposals, try to finding a supervisor within this week. I'll try to email it to them, and I'll help you as soon as I can to get an offer so you can apply for the scholarships. The fourth one, which is typically the admissions issue, which is mostly faced by Indonesian students, will be the academic requirement. Some of the students, they don't have like below 3.0 for the GPA, so it's kind of like difficulties. And then the reference letter, because we need 2 reference letter as part of our applications. So it is really important for you to inform your referee if you're planning to applying to the university. Please inform them to respond to our admissions email, because I know some of the students, they are actually waiting for so long because they don't get any feedback from the referee. So it is really important for you to inform your referee before you're making an application. So at least they will respond to our admissions email and give the letters straight away. Okay. And then the last one will be the scholarship funding. I know LPP just announced this scholarship, especially for the lecturers. So I think it's really important because Queens is part of the list. So I would be more than happy to help you guys to go through with all this admission process up until you're getting a visa, up until you buying your flight ticket and ready to go to UK. All right. So I think that's all from me. I'm not sure whether we still have time, but if we still have time, I'm gonna play maybe one videos from our students, but maybe we just continue with Mbak Feni first, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think we go
Thank you.
to Ibu Feni. If we still have time, Ibu Yurika can play the video, but do not worry, we still have another session on December, inshallah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Bu Yurika. Now we move on to our last presenter, Ibu Feni Carolina, as EDD student at QUB and also one of IELA board member too. Okay, floor is yours, Bu Feni.
Thank you. I have shared my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to share to you about things to consider when you stay in Belfast with your family. So this the first picture is when I have a picnic with my Indonesian colleagues to one of the tourist destination in Belfast. It's very popular. What is it called? Giant Causeway. I forgot.
Yes, Giant Causeway.
Yes. And then is it clearly seen the typing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So things to consider when you
it is not
Bu Feni, can you
make
make it full? Make it full.
how to make it full, yeah.
Push F5, Feni.
Oh, F5, yeah. Okay. F5. Where is F? Is Ctrl N? Why it is not working?
Or click just the below.
The slideshow, Bu Feni.
How
at
to
the bottom, the right side, on the right side.
On the right side, let
Yeah,
me
you have
see.
the slideshow.
Yes, make it slideshow.
Slideshow already, I think.
No, not yet.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, yes.
No, I'm getting there first.
No.
Move to the right. Like TV, Bu Feni, like TV. Can you see more TV? Like
Mbak,
TV?
di
This one?
lihat yang di bawah.
Yang which one,
bawah
Bu?
juga ada.
Kanan bawah itu kan ada di
Sebelah kiri. Sebelah kiri yang ada gambar layar.
Oh yeah, here. This one.
Bukan
This one?
yang
di samping.
Oh, maybe I said this to Bu Ainu. Bu Ainu, can you share it to friends, please? Bu Ainu, I share it to the IELA board members WhatsApp. Can you share it to the slideshow here?
Next to the icon, like a book, Bu Feni page on the right.
The right side up.
Yes, you see the icon or like a page book.
Because in my screen here, so many things. Oh my goodness, I have to scroll. Wait a minute. Copy, share computer sounds. Which one?
But di situ kan ada untuk ngurangin layar di sampingnya.
You share, resume share. I share it to Ibu Ainu. Bu Ainu, can you share it, please?
F5 Tapen. F5.
Already, there is no F here, meaning.
Oh, okay.
Because my laptop is a small one. Now I'm getting there first, guys. Bu Ainu, can you help me, please?
Okay, now.
It's done, Feni.
Okay, thank you, Bu Aini. Thank goodness. I'm getting sweating now. Now, can you go to the next slide, please? Bu Ainu, next slide, please. Okay, is it clear now, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing that we have to consider when we stay in Belfast with family is don't forget to bring children vaccine record from Indonesia. This is really important because some students, including me, forget to bring that while we already been in Belfast, and it's gonna be really tough for you to register to get health card for or NHS card for your children. So when you arrive in Belfast, we have to register ourselves and our family members to nearby clinic or hospital. So we have to get the health card in order to get the health service in Belfast. Otherwise, if we got something emergency, we will not get the service from hospital if we are not registered. So this is really important. Like in my case, my son last time got fainted in the school, and then the ambulance comes. So if I don't register my son to the to get the NHS card, I have to pay for the ambulance service. But since I have already registered, so I got it for free, and including my husband. My husband got a heart valve surgery. So during my study, it was so complicated, guys, because I have so many issues regarding my family. We never expect that thing happen to us during our study. So make sure that whenever you arrive, you manage the health cards. You manage the health card as soon as possible, yeah, because it's really important. We don't know anything happen, including this time we have a COVID-19 pandemic. So anything can happen to us during our journey from Indonesia to Belfast. Yeah. Okay. The third one is school for children. Okay, school. When you take our family to during our study, it might give us another burden, of course, yeah, but it's also give us another pleasure, environments, because we take our family with us. So one of them is managing school for children. So at the time, it's a little bit frustration for me, because I go to some schools and they reject me. They said, oh, our school is already full. We don't have any space. So I'm so lucky that some of my friends asked me to contact Education Authority. So Education Authority in Indonesia, it is called Diknas or Dikbud. So I call them by phone, and then they give me suggestions nearby school. I told them my conditions, that I don't have any private vehicles, I don't have any car, and then I asked them to any nearby school that I can access by public transportations. So they give me some numbers of the school and name of the school that I get access from my children, especially at the time it's a secondary school. So I give you the name of the nearby schools very close to university, Queen's University, like Fenstead Primary School. This is very good school. I send my son to Fenstead Primary School, which is like around 5-minute walk from Queens and 5-minute walk from my accommodation as well at that time. And then also there is one Botanic Primary School. This is also very good primary school. However, this Botanic Primary School gonna be a little bit tough in terms of registration, because it has a long queue. So make sure that when you arrive, and then you plan to take your family with you. You have already come to the school and tell to the teachers that you're going to take your family. So you put your children in the booking, you book the space for your son or for your daughter, for example, like 6 months ahead or for the following year. So you will get the space for the target of the school nearby to your accommodation. So that's really important, because for the children, like nursery is a bit competitive, yeah, to get the space for the nursery in Fenstead Primary School. So we have to make sure about that, consider about that thing, yeah. And then about the secondary schools, I experienced managing my children in primary school and secondary school. It's very complicated. Actually, not that complicated, but I just want to give you descriptions, the gap between Indonesians and Belfast secondary and primary school. In terms of registration, it is very easy, very simple compared to Indonesia. Yeah? If we register our children to the schools, we just bring passport. So the schools will adjust to their age, to the level of the school. So it is not as complicated as Indonesia. In Indonesia, we have to bring the report book, we have to bring the certificate. But in Belfast, no need to worry about that. We just bring the passport, and then they will they will manage, the school will manage about your children, and also for English language lesson, they will provide extra class for your children even to improve their English competence. So it's really, when I send my children to school, I feel touched because my children give report to me that they have extra English classes for those who are newcomers in Belfast. So they improve their English. So in terms, I have already also in terms of the tuition fee, actually, basically, schools in Belfast are free. However, some school applies the donations, but donation is really affordable. Don't worry about that. It's around, let's say around £20 or £30 per year. It's very cheap. However, some very good school in Belfast, it is called grammar school. So grammar school is a secondary school, the outstanding one, and then if we want to register our children to grammar school, so they have to join AQE test. It is called entrance test. So my son, fortunately, is accepted Methodist College Belfast, which is very close to university, and it is easy for me while I'm studying. I take my son to Methodist College, and after that I go to University Belfast. So it is really relieving when we get a good school close to university. So we are, as international students, we feel relieved, we feel safe because we can pick up our children anytime, and it is walking distance from university. So I suggest you, when you have children in a primary school like P6 or P7, to prepare the AQE test in Belfast to get to grammar school in Belfast, which is close to university, that is called Methodist College Belfast. Yeah. However, if our children do not pass the test, still the previous slide, Bu Ainu, we can register our children to other secondary schools. However, it is a little bit far, and we can bus for the children. But don't worry, the children will get discount for the transportations. If I'm not wrong, around £15 per week for the children cost for the bus. So at the beginning, I feel a little bit worried with my son because I leave my son alone to get on the bus. However, when I take my son to go to the school by bus, I see many of his friends are in the same bus. So I feel, oh my God! And my son said, okay, I have so many friends, mommy, so I do not need to be worried. Yeah, I only take my son only like 2 or 3 days, and after that, he said, I can manage myself, and so I feel like I'm a proud mommy. Okay, next, please, Bu Ainu. Next slide. So now I give you alternative activities for children in Belfast. When we settle to Belfast, we need to also have another activities. Like in my case, I get a little bit frustrated before because I see my son, my children playing game all the time. Because in Belfast, the situation is very cold. When we play outside, it is very cold. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to go to playground. So they just stay at home for the whole day. Can you imagine that? That gives me another frustration as a mommy, as a student as well. So I take my sons to the chess club in Belfast, and it is really, really good. You know why? Because we get immersed in Belfast society. I improve my English. I speak to other parents, and my son also speak to their friends while they're playing chess. Actually, while they're playing chess, they keep quiet. However, after playing chess, they communicate. So it's really good. And I see my son improve their confidence in communications because they have another skill that they can show off to their friends in school. So this is really good. And then I also register my son to weekly swimming lesson at Olympia, which is really close, which is like walking distance to Queen's University Belfast. So for your information, guys, Queen's University Belfast is really strategic. So I can go to the nearby important places for my children, also for my husband to go to work as as well. So now we go to the fifth one, option for spouse work. So in Belfast, all of my family members, they actively get involved in community. No one stay at home. I go to university, my children go to school. In the afternoon, they go to chess club. They also go to swimming lesson. My husband go to work. No one stay at home. So this is really good because no one feel abandoned. So, and like I give you some option where you can apply for a job for your spouse, your husband, or your wife. The most important point is to be able to speak in English. So you have to practice in English with your family, your husband, your wife, your children, so they can communicate with their peers, their colleagues, their co-workers. You can apply the job in McDonald's. So I give you the link because I ever worked in McDonald's long ago. And then my husband also applied for that position as well, and he's accepted as well. And then you can also apply to KFC. So some spouse work in the KFC as well, or you can apply for the job agency. This is called Blue Arrow. I give you the website here, and it is very close to the City Hall of Belfast. So next is the document that you can
Bu Feni, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Bu Feni, sorry to interrupt. We have limited time.
Yes, okay. So I just give you this slide. So this is the document that you use for spouse. And next slide, please, Bu. I will make it quicker, ya, Bu Anini. So the second one is training, part-time job for students. If you want to apply part-time job at Queen's, you can go to My Future with QUB. I give you the link here. And the trainings at the graduate schools is really important because you get school training in relation to writing and, that academic related training to improve your competence in academic. And number 8 is about gym, Zumba, swimming pool at QUB. So you can register yourself to be PEC member, and then you get access in a very affordable price. I last time is a member of the PEC, and it helps. It gives me, better well-being if I join gym in PEC. It's a really good one. And the last one is how to get accommodations. So accommodation in Belfast is Queen's University student accommodations. Number 9, yes, this is the picture of accommodation. I stay in Queen's Arms Village for 1 year. It's around like £500 per month in private flat or house to rent. I give you the link, Gumtree, Property Post. So these are the links to get the private house. Room to rent. For room to rent is around £300 to £350 per month. Okay, but about the house, the whole house, like two bedroom house is around like £600. 600 or £650 per month. Yeah. Okay. This is halal butcher list. Okay, I want to location of QB strategic. You can use. You can go anywhere by on foot or by using bicycle. This is my pink bicycle. Oh, I love my bicycle now. Okay, I miss it.
Okay.
Okay, the last one. Is this the last one?
Okay.
Okay, I think it's finished, Bu Andini. So that's all my explanation.
Okay.
Guys, sorry if it is too long.
That's okay. Actually, if you have further question, you can go straight to our WhatsApp group, right, Bu Feni?
Yes.
And also to IELA official to ask very private questions, maybe for the question regarding your presentation. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jennifer, Ibu Eureka, and Ibu Feni. We'll go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your question into chat box in your control panels or raise your hands. It looks like we have a few questions. Some questions have been already answered by Dr. Jennifer and Ibu Eureka. I will ask the other questions that have been answered yet in YouTube, I guess. Sri Asari Astuti asked, since I'm a new lecturer in my campus, I have got my EDN yet. It's still being proposed at the moment. I plan to apply LPDP through general application, not a lecture one. Is it possible for me to ask your favor as well regarding these applications? Let me think. Which question is?
I can answer this, Bu Andini.
Okay.
Queen's University Belfast doesn't belong to. It's not included in the LPDP General, one of designated universities. Before it's only for pharmacy and nursing, but I'm not really sure for this current time. So it's only for lecturer, LPDP PTA and LPDP Vokasi, Bu.
Vokasi, yes.
Vokasi. Only two opportunities, not the general one.
Okay.
So if I can edit, Mbak Feni, so LPDP this year, typically like last year's, they do have two options for LPDP Afirmasi and LPDP regular, but this they only announced for LPDP regular. But last year actually Queen's was under the list for affirmation for pharmacy and nursing, so we are not on LPDP regular list, unfortunately.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, there is one question from me representing some question asked by my friends. Okay. The question is about the language used when you contact your supervisors. It is a cultural issue, right? So maybe, is there any suggestion regarding that?
Yes, I completely understand this question because there are definitely cultural differences. I think probably I'm not out of turn when saying in the UK we tend to be a little bit more informal. So normally students would, when they're first making contact, they would normally just address me as Dr. Jennifer Roberts. So it would normally just be Dear Dr. Jennifer Roberts. Now, when I get to know my students, I would never have them calling me Dr. Jennifer Roberts. I would always say, please just call me Jennifer. Please just call me Jennifer. But normally for that initial first contact, it's probably best to just use their title and their name.
Okay, thank you. There is also another question, sister. Jennifer, it's quite confusing even me when I start writing a letter to propose potential supervisors. Thank you for the explanation. There is another question, very interesting question in the chat box about GPA from
someone in the YouTube.
From YouTube,
It has been answered.
Okay, but I will read the answer about replacing GPA with publishing an article, and specific requirement for GPA will be 3 to 3.2 from accredited Indonesian university. The answer from I think Jennifer, right?
No, that's from me. So
from Eureka. Okay.
So
can you read again?
So actually they are asking whether the published articles can be replaced as the English requirement. The answer is no, unfortunately. We still need the English language requirement as our one of the requirements for admissions as well as for the visa applications. So that's why it is really important for students to submit the English requirements. They can submit IELTS or TOEFL or Duolingo or any other English requirement specifically accepted by Queen's. So yeah, we don't accept published articles as the English wave, unfortunately.
Can I have a question?
Yes. Okay, please.
How about the recommendation letter from the previous supervisors when we applied for the admission in Belfast? Is it a manual or a electronic one?
So thank you, Mbak, for the question. So typically we will need two reference letter. One is from your university and one is from your employers. Typically you will only need to state their emails and their names and positions, and our admissions will email them directly with the steps for the reference letter. So you don't need to provide the hard copy of reference. Our admissions will email the referee directly.
Okay, yes, because some of my supervisors are having problems with technology, and even they don't remember the password and the username of their
Oh,
uh,
okay.
their formal ID. So it is a very difficult for me. So whenever someone applies for the scholarship and asking for their recommendation, we usually remind them that there will be a notification from the university about the recommendation. Will Belfast do the similar thing for the
Um,
recommendation?
I know there's been quite many cases about that, but typically, if for example the referee hasn't get back to us within certain of deadlines, we will chase the students typically,
Okay.
and then at the end we will be accepting for the hard copy kind of reference letter. The one that you scan and email to our admissions, yes, but typically our admissions will do their job to email the referee first to get the
Okay.
reference.
So I have to find someone who are competent for technology application, right?
Technology. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Typically,
I
yes.
will run out of the time, right?
Yes, because it will be really frustrating to write the reference letter one by one.
Yeah.
Typically, it will be all online right now, which is very easier and very fast. So, yeah, hopefully, Mbak.
Yeah, I have ever recommended one of my students from applying for master, and I thought that it is quite simple compared to the printed one. Thank you,
Yep.
Mbak Yurika and
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Um,
Any
have a,
other questions?
yeah, I have received a questions
Yeah.
from a teacher here from YouTube.
Okay.
She is a teacher and she's asking in United States when we want to apply a scholarship, we can go through what is it? AMINEF or something. How about to UK? Because she is not young anymore. She's 44 something. So to have LPDP is quite difficult. I think it's impossible. Yeah. So she's asking in what way that she can get a scholarship to UK.
Okay, maybe I can answer to that questions, and maybe Mbak Feni can add on if I miss anything. But typically for the scholarship, the one like for our university itself, we do offer some scholarship, but it's only partial scholarship. And PhD right now we only offer like early bird reward, which is only 10% discount from the tuition fee. And I know most of Indonesian PhD students, they will look at the full scholarship, including the living costs and flight tickets and everything. And I think it would be really challenging to ask for the UK universities because typically we don't offer any full scholarships, unfortunately. I would be looking at, not sure, but we do, but I still remember that the government scholarship having a LPDP, Kemendikbud scholarship, also I think Budi Dikti, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure about the age requirement, though, but I think our
40,
government has
40
30
now. 40 is
now,
the
yeah.
maximum. This time, last year,
So-
I mean, when in 2016, it's 47. Now government changed the policy, it become 40. But not
Okay.
for the vokasi, for vokasi 42, afirmasi 42, PNS
Okay.
42.
PNS 42.
Now it's
Okay.
more tough, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think age will be kind of a challenge right now.
Yes.
Thank you, Mbak Yurika. Fendi.
Thank you.
Okay, another question for Ibu Feni.
Yes.
In the chat rooms. Bu Feni, you asked all members of your family from Ibu Sylvia. You asked all members of your family to stay with you in Belfast in around 3 years. How about your husband? Does he take a leave for his job? And what do you think to bring a 3 years old baby? You know, family issue, talking about family is really a good issue for students. For mother and international students.
It's true. It's true. I think my family they stay in Belfast around 3 years and a half, almost 4 years. Yeah, because during pandemic we cannot go home because there is no flight at that time. And then how about my husband? Oh, my husband resigned from his job in Indonesia, so my husband is not a civil servant. He doesn't work for government. He works for private company. So it's more flexible for him to resign. And then when he come back to Indonesia, he can reapply, reapply for the job. So now he's waiting for a vacancy now he is applying for a new job in Indonesia. So it's a bit more flexible than civil servant in NS in Indonesia. Yeah. And then what do you think to bring a 3-year-old baby? Okay. It's a bit complicated, guys. So in Belfast, childcare is a bit expensive. Okay. So, but fortunately, while you're doing PhD, you can you have online classes, right? And then you have your husband to take care of your children. So you manage with your husband and then your academic stuff and your children. I have a friend of mine. She can manage that. She has like a 4-year-old daughter, and she can manage her husband take care of the son. The husband manage the supervisor in terms of job in Belfast. So some of jobs are really flexible in Belfast. So the husband take a night shift instead of morning shift. So they can manage that. When you are in Belfast, anything you can manage. I mean, when we are in emergency, as long as you capable to manage that, it's fine to take care of to bring the 3-year-old baby. Even some students deliver a baby in Belfast, Yeah, and then they can manage that. I mean, yeah. I think that's all. As long as you have a partner or spouse to take care of your children.
Okay. We are going to move to another question.
Can I ask something?
Yes. Ibu Nining, and after that Ibu Ainu, I guess. Okay. Ibu Nining, please.
Yeah, just quite short about the referee. Can the referee come from others? I mean, not. Does the referee have to be from our master supervisor, or can we get from someone else in academic environment, such as our colleagues or our previous lecturers in other areas, but not from master supervisors? So thank you.
Yes, Mbak. So long is coming from the academic background, from your latest education, it should be fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ibu
So,
Ainu.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, from other universities as well.
Ibu Ainu.
Okay, test.
Yes.
Test. Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Ainu.
Yes.
Yes, Ibu Ainu.
Yeah.
Okay. Ibu Yurika. Actually, I have so many questions, but I'd like to ask for one. I will take my IELTS test approximately 22 of this May. So the certificate will be launched at 28, perhaps. Is it do I have enough time to register to QUB, but at least at that time before the 30th of June?
Okay, thank you for the questions, Bu Ainu. Typically for IELTS, you can submit it later, so long that you have already got the confirmation from the supervisor. So I think it's really important for you to get in contact with the supervisor first, find your supervisors. Once your supervisor is happy with your applications, you can submit your applications. When you're submitting your applications, you can submit your IELTS later, so long that you have your transcript for your master's and bachelor's ready, your copy passport, your CV is ready. You can submit the IELTS later on. It's fine. Okay.
Actually, I have a question, Bu Yurika, because Queen's now Queen's has PhD integrated, right?
Yes.
So for those who apply for PhD integrated, should they send their proposal in advance or not?
No.
Oh, so this is a great info. I think my colleagues here, they don't know about that, guys. So if you don't have any proposal yet to register to Queen's, you can apply for PhD integrated. So PhD integrated is like a doctorate in Indonesia. So 1 year we have classes, and 2 years we have our own project. So it's exactly same like Indonesian doctorate. So for those who are not ready for the research proposal, you can apply for PhD integrated instead of PhD. Like in my case, I took EDD at the time because my reason is I want to learn about a statistic. I want to learn about research related modules because because during my master degree I didn't have any dissertations. So that triggered me to I want to push myself to get immersed into research module situations. So I want to learn more deeply about that. So I take EDD instead of PhD. So this is a good options for our colleges here. If you're not, we have a very limited time because the deadline for LPDP is the 2nd of June and we just got the information 2nd of May. Can you imagine 1 month to prepare? Oh my goodness, I can imagine if I were in your positions because what you face now is exactly same what I faced 4 years ago. So at the time, I directly make a decision. I should take EDD instead of PhD because at the time I was not ready with the methods because I'm not familiar with the methodology. What kind of statistical testing that I'm going to choose for my research questions? So those kind of stuff drive me to take EDD instead of PhD. So guys, if you are not really sure, if, for example, you are not really ready with a research proposal, you can take PhD integrated instead of PhD. But if you're ready with the proposal and you are familiar with the research project, you may take PhD instead of PhD integrated. So I think you are real. Queen's is really good because it has 2 options for potential PhD or PhD students.
Integrated, yeah.
Yes.
So if we choose to apply PhD integrated, we just write to register to QUB without attaching the proposal.
No,
but instead of applying LPDP, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Mbak Feni, go ahead.
Bu Aino, Bu Eureka, there is one issue here. LPDP scholarship require us to have a supervisor. So I want to share my experience before. So during I already, contacted QUB at the time. I requested QUB to give me a letter showing who is my supervisor. And then QUB said, Fanny, you are applying EDD, not PhD. We do not assign any supervisor for you because you are not in the research step yet. However, I try to convince them, I'm going to apply scholarship. If I don't have any supervisor name, I will not be able to pass through this interview. Yes. So after that, I said, please give me one supervisor, just one name, to convince the interviewer that I'm ready to study in Belfast. Whatever the program is, I said, oh, I know this is EDD, but I need the name of supervisor. So at the time, I asked QUB to give me a letter instead of unconditional letter, because in unconditional letter of EDD, there is no name of supervisor. So I have another letter identifying who my supervisor is. This is only for,
the internal process.
Just a letter, yeah. But in the reality, in Queens at the time, my supervisor is not that supervisor because I have another supervisor who is in line with my research project, because the first supervisor, the research interest is not in line with mine. So if you're applying PhD integrated, I think as a LPDP scholarship awardee, we have to ask a letter from Queens. Maybe Eureka can facilitate that for those who are applying a PhD integrated, to get additional letter about the potential supervisor, because in my interview they asked me that, and thank goodness, I showed them another letter and I said, then they said, okay, you have your supervisor, yes. But if I explain that in detail, maybe they do not really get the point what I mean, yeah. So just that's the easy way to convince that. So I have 2 letters, unconditional letter and then supervisor letter. So I get through later, and finally I was safe.
Okay, okay. Because typically, Mbak Feni, during the integrated educations, they will be mentored by PhD supervisors.
Yes.
So we are not kind of like asking you to find the PhD supervisor first, because you will be mentored by one of them.
Yes.
It will be great if you at least find the supervisor at least in line with your research proposal later. If Mbak Feni can get the letters, I'm sure I can help.
Yes.
I can help you to get the
Yeah.
letters as well. Yeah. Let me
And
speak
make
with the
sure,
admissions. Yeah.
yeah, make sure the name is not mentor, Mbak.
Yeah.
Make sure the name is supervisor, because you know in Indonesia it's complicated. Just because one word, maybe my peers here will not be accepted by LPDP to get the scholarship. So that word supervisor is really important. So make sure supervisor, because you know the bureaucracy is really tough in Indonesia. We know, everyone knows about that. So we have to make sure that our the documents are in line with what are required by Indonesian government. That's very important.
Okay, but Mbak Feni, can I check, because this education integrated program will be 4 years, so the cost will be straight away
4 years.
Is okay with LPDP?
LPDP 4 years.
Okay.
4 years. Even like in my case, LPDP give me 4 years and half, because I at that time we have like a COVID-19 pandemic. So LPDP has a new regulations for those who wants to extend the study due to the lockdown. So to some universities they are closed, including Queen's Uni. Queen's Uni closed at the time for like around 3 months. The library closed, office closed. So I asked extension to LPDP, and LPDP pay for the whole staff, including family members. So I get the family allowance, extra 6 months family allowance, tuition fee, all of them, including the health insurance.
Okay, perfect. Okay, this kind of relief, because you know those LPDP sometimes they have those bureaucracy and the
4 years, but don't worry, 4 years. LPDP
yes.
4 years.
Okay, perfect. 4 years will be okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, any other questions? So one last question is, you know, we are approaching to LPDP deadline in June 5th.
Yeah.
The question is a bit silly, but I think everybody will ask that. Is there any shortcut to get LOA unconditional? No?
I'll try my best. I mean, one of the good things is that you need to find the supervisor first. That's kind of like the first kind of things to do. You need to look at the link given by Jennifer's previously on the presentations, which I'm gonna share it to all these participants. So you can click on the link. You need to find the supervisor first, and then after that you can submit the applications. Once you submitted your application, do let me know so I can help. So I can kind of push admissions to expedite the offer. I'll try my best, but yeah, but typically you need to find the supervisor first. But
yes, the alternative way, Bu Aditi, sorry, the alternative way, like what Bu Yurika said, the first step is finding the supervisor, or the second alternative way is applying PhD integrated, because you are not applying for the supervisor. So this is much simpler, much easier. I mean, much quicker as well, much quicker, I guess, because you don't need to find the supervisors. You will get supervisor later on, 1 year after you finish your modules. This is like in Indonesia. In Indonesia, we don't have a fully PhD. We have in Indonesia, doctorate system is like PhD integrated. So Indonesia, 1 year we have module, and 2 years or 3 years we have research project. We don't have PhD in Indonesia. We have PhD integrated in Indonesia. So I think like what Mbak Yurika said, for those who have been ready with a research proposal, the first step is applying supervisor. But for those who are not ready with the research proposal and wants to have a quick start, a quick procedure, just take the PhD integrated. That's my suggestion. That's my suggestion.
Okay, it looks like we've covered all of our questions tonight. Jennifer, Ibu Jennifer, Ibu Yurika, And Ibu Feni, is there anything else you wanted to cover before wrap up?
No, just thank you very much for having us.
Okay.
I just want to add one more thing about the modules. If we take the PhD integrated, yeah, I feel that I'm so, there is a positive and negative taking PhD and PhD integrated. But for those who are not familiar with methods in research, especially in master degree, we are not familiar with statistics, we are not familiar with coding, theme, and 5 in FIFO. So I suggest you to take PhD integrated. But if you think that you can manage by yourself to handle those kind of stuff, PhD is the best option for you, because in PhD also you have time. You also required to join, like a sit in or doing observation. What we call it, sit in the modules. So you are required to sit in the modules, but you are not doing assignments.
Okay.
Yeah, so you still get the knowledge as well, just like PhD integrated. So it's a good one. I mean, so it depends on your own personal situations.
Wow, it's very interesting and new thing for us for tonight webinar. If I may wrap up for today's tonight meetings, we might find that setting a time arrangement, especially to finding supervisor, is the important thing to do if you want to apply for PhD. And the other issue is that if we are not ready for proposal, another suggestion is applying for integrated PhD. And for those, another issue is about related to English proficiency. Do not worry if your IELTS does not meet the requirement. We will have another alternative at QUB that is trying to take Duolingo one. If you want to ask more about Duolingo, you can contact Mbak Yurika about it.
Yes, let me share my contact again on the chat. So yeah.
You may find the contact again in the chat box. And for the participant, don't forget to fill out the presency form, because but Yurika will send the certificate.
I'll send the certificates as well as the presentation. So please, feel free to fill in the attendance.
Okay, I will send it. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. I will give my gratitude first to Bapak Dr. Daniel Ginting as our president of IELA. I know that he has been supporting us in holding this seminar, even though he's not feeling well. That's why he turned off the video. Thank you, Pak Daniel Ginting, for your support. And I would like to send our biggest gratitude to our presenters for your wonderful presentations, Dr. Jennifer, Ibu Yurika, and Ibu Feni. Okay. Save another important events on IELAS. On 17th of July to 2021, we have another international webinar, 17th of July. And on the 4th of December 2021, we will have also call for paper and international conference that I think we are going to meet with QUB team also, hopefully.
Please do let me know, ya, Ibu.
Yes. For all, for have more participants. Okay. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. And I would like to say, Selamat Idul Fitri for those who celebrate Ramadan from IELA. Okay. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night,
photo
everyone.
session.
Photo session. Okay. Don't go everywhere. I know. Bueno, can we start?
Okay, yes, I'm ready. Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I got 10% here. And then let's get ready. 3, 2, 1. Okay, again. 3, 2, 1. Once more. Awesome.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Jennifer, Bu Yurika.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Minal Aidin wal
Ibu
Faizin.